Welcome, and for those who have never seen an HMDH Academy tutorial, my name is Richard, and along with my wife, Linda, we are the instructors at HMDH Academy. Today we're going to be going over the new tutorial, the Rosa handbag, which basically is featuring the double pleated pocket, and it's a U-shaped gusset design. It offers a lot of possibilities. You can use a combination of leather and fabric, you can do contrasting colors, you can add the double pleated pockets on both sides of the bag, you can make it larger and create a carry-all or a carry-all or overnight bag. Change the material and the flap design a little bit, and you can get a little unisex bag out of it for both men and women. It's really entirely up to you as the designers. I do want you to remember that to concentrate on the techniques, not necessarily the style of the bag. It's up to you to use the technique and the style of the bag that you want to make. So you look at the video, you do a sketch, and you create the bag you want to make using these techniques that are offered to you in this particular tutorial. If you get lost or confused, or you have questions, a lot of those questions can be answered just by going to the more detailed tutorials in our beginning and advanced courses. All the techniques you've seen, you will learn in this particular tutorial are covered in detail in the courses. So with that said, I would just go ahead and we're going to just go and start working on our bag and create the first part of our bag, which is the gusset. Okay, so like I said, the very first pattern piece we're going to make for this particular style of bag is going to be our gusset. And almost everything is determined by the gusset. The height of the bag, the width of the bag, the width of the top, and it's also going to determine the shape of the bag. Now you need to go ahead and look at your sketch and then determine what your height is going to be, what the width of the bottom is going to be, and how much is going to open up at the top. And you should remember to have a little bit wider on the top so that it's easier to access the things inside the bag. It definitely should be greater than the bottom. So always think about the function of your design and how other people are going to be using it. You will also notice that I've made windows so that my leather will fold where I want it to. These windows will be cut out to create my stay. And I usually think of stays as the path of least resistance, because wherever you cut out, that's where it's going to fold. Now our next pattern piece is going to be our front and back. And to get the measurements for our front and back, you're going to have to walk the gusset pattern to find the length around your gusset. Instead of walking all the way around the gusset, what you do is you just walk half the pattern and then you just double the measurement. So for instance, if once you've walked your gusset and you have a measurement of say 5 inches, then you would know that it's 10 inches all the way around. So you're going to want to go ahead and walk your gusset to get the length of your front and back. If you don't know how to walk your pattern, you need to go ahead and refer to our shorts or lesson 3 in the beginning course, which is a messenger bag. I also want you to note on the pattern that I have an indication of where the bottom will end up. As you can look at it from the bottom going up toward the top, you'll see my first line. This is an indication of where I want the bottom of my bag, the width of my bag, the bottom of my bag to actually stop. When I make my bottom pattern piece, that's where I want it to stop. You'll also see that middle section, that's where I want to put my pockets. And then at that top section up there, that's where I want where my flap to end. And you also see an indication down the middle of where the decorative strap is going to go, and also the width of the strap. Now, our next piece we're going to go ahead and create is our bottom. Um, this is going to be out of an 030 Bontex. You don't want it too stiff because it is going to curl a little bit because of the way the style bag is. So what you want to do at this point is to go ahead and make your bottom and make sure that it's the width that you indicated on your master pattern. You also want to make sure that your pocket, you get ready to make your pocket next, but you want to also make sure that your pocket seam allowance is going to fit underneath the bottom, because that's how you're going to stitch across. When you stitch the bottom, you're also going to stitch across and be stitching your patterns at the bottom. So, your pleated pocket at the bottom. So, you do want to make sure that your width is correct at the bottom. So, our next pattern piece is our double pleated pocket. I've already created a short tutorial explaining the different elements of this particular pocket, this double pleated pocket. So you can go to that short, you'll find it in under shorts, and view how that particular double pleated pocket was developed. It's really no different. You just basically, if you can make a pleated pocket, then of course you can make a double pleated pocket by combining the pattern and making two and then connecting them. It's really not that hard. But it will add something to your repertoire of design techniques, in other words. So the next time, or when you're looking to develop a bag in the future, you'll be able to maybe consider this as something that, an element that you would add to your design. So that's the double pleated pocket. Again, I'll refer you to the short tutorial to go over it. Our next pattern piece is the flap. You want to take note of how much area you have in the back as you attach the flap to your back. You want it to bend just a touch above the back of the bag, but you also want it to fold back far enough for you to sew your lining in. So you need to be careful about where you're placing the flap on the back when you attach it. You want to make sure you have enough room there to work with. Other than that, just make sure that you're going to make sure that it's aligned properly and that it's straight, and that when it comes over the top, it's not going to squish it or crunch the bag in. You want it to be a little bit relaxed under there. You also want the front of the flap to drop down, because where the flap drops down and where the pieces meet and that's also where the hardware is going to be attached. Other than that, that's just about all the guidance I have on that. This is the end of your, these are all your masters. Now you're going to do your outside patterns. And when you do your outside patterns, and as you go further into the tutorial, I'll mention this again, make sure that you're going to have enough seam allowance because you will be adding welting. And so you want to make sure that when you're sewing that your foot is really sitting nice and flat, or your cord foot or your welting foot sitting nice and flat, so you get a nice finish to your bag. So that's about it as far as this particular pattern overview of the master patterns. And from here you should be able to take it, and if you have any additional problems or questions or something like that, you can always go to the Facebook group and or just really refer to the beginning course and videos and look through those, and you'll find the answers. Okay, so now we're just going to go right into putting the bag together. I've already cut my leather pieces, and we'll go from there. I'm going to be going over a double pleated pocket. What I have here is my pattern, and I already have my piece of leather cut out and ready to go. And I also have my stays to make the pocket pleat the way I want to already cut out. As you can see, I have two different materials going on here. One is my Bontex 012, and another one is Pella 926. Now, the reason that I have two here is because when I make this pocket, I can get two different effects based on which one of these I decide to use. I do make stays out of other things than Bontex, and the reason for that is sometimes I feel like Bontex can kind of give your leather, a stiffness, sort of almost like paper, and so therefore you want to try to hide it. And so I have two choices here. I can put my Pellin over my stay and try to soften it a bit, or I can use my Pellin as my stay. Now, this will be just enough structure when it's glued on to give my pleats a little definition, for a better word. So that's where I'm at now, and I just wanted to take a moment to explain to you about this particular stay. So I'm going to go ahead and do some gluing and put my stay in place and turn it, and then try to show you how it's going to function in the bag. I've decided to use my Pellin because I wanted kind of like a softer feel to the pocket. The leather I'm using is a veggie tan, and it's pretty stiff for this type of a bag. So I'm really trying my best to keep everything as thin as possible. And I also wanted it soft because I have to turn the bag. So that's why I stayed with the Pellin. So as you can see, I've glued it together. Made a solid glue to my leather here. And as you can also see, my wingles are already cut out. And this is going to be where I fold up the pockets to to create the double pocket. I'm going to fold it up and create the double pocket. Place it along the windows, and as you can see, it's got got really good definition to it, so it easily stands out, and it has a slight curve to it. So when it comes into the bag and it comes together, it will straighten out. So you got to put that curve into it or it kind of won't work. And now here we go. This is how the pockets fit into the bag that we're making. In this particular case, you can see that the pockets fit under. The bottom of the pockets go under the bottom. And you also have to want to be make sure that you give yourself enough seam allowance to sew. In this case, it looks a little tight. We also have to put welting in, so make sure you give yourself some good seam allowance to work with. And here you can see we have attached the flaps to it and how the pockets look once they're in place and finished. And again, I can't stress to you how important it is that you make sure that your pockets have enough seam allowance that is going to allow you to sew with ease, because there's also welting that goes on. So make sure you compensate for that in your pattern.
For the lining, what I start with is I sew this pleated pocket. There's a short on this little pocket that's really great for an inside or outside of a bag. So first I make this little pleated pocket with the zipper in it, and then I go from there. The gussets are made from the master pattern, and what I did is split the gusset in half, and so I could put the divider on the gusset before I sew it into the rest of the lining. So this shows you how that was split. The red part indicates my outside pattern with the seam allowance. In constructing the divider, I first sewed my zipper to the lining material, and I used a stay and turned so I could get an even edge for the zipper, and I just attached it to the zipper. So this is without the rest of the divider. This is just looking at the inside of the divider. And then the next step will be the outside of the divider, which will consist of the outside. Here it is, the outside part of the divider. I added some pellin to make it more stiff, and I also put some zipper stops made out of leather. So that's then the next step would be to sew the leather, the outside of the divider, which is a fabric piece with the leather divider collar or trim. And there it is. I glued it down, and then I did a top stitch. This is the divider sewn into the bottom seam. And as you can see also, that pleated pocket gets sewn into that leather trim. On the left side, it goes right into that leather trim. So I now sew the gusset halves to the divider. It's kind of hard to see them because of this dark lining I have, but I sort of sandwiched the two dividers on each side and sewed that middle seam, as you can see, and that's how that divider gets put in. This is showing how it turns out. You sew the rest of the front and back to that gusset that contains both of the halves of the divider, and it comes out like this. I did put some pellin, I think I already told you, that for structure, because it was kind of thin. So this is what it looks like before you drop it in, and it fit pretty good. I mean, you sometimes have to do little fits, but this fit pretty well.